in the pivotal moment, and we did get to see a nice little debut as well from Moxop. But yeah, I mean, coming into this, it's still overwhelming expectations that Verdant come out ahead.
They should, but we expected that yesterday as well in opposite directions for both of these teams, and maybe we get another surprise today. Again, we are into picks and bans. Uniq immediately banning away the LeBlanc, which is still very strong, and Kindred on the other side, away from Cast. I wonder whether we see a few more of those carry junglers taken off the table as well.
Yeah, it wouldn't really surprise me because Cast has changed the dynamic of this Uniq roster quite significantly, but there are also a couple solo lane picks that you can take away from them. The Ornn for Uko has been very, very impactful, and Unicorn's Azir has just been a different level. It feels like every single split in the NLC, we've just got that one Azir player who is a little bit too cracked for you to give the champion over to them.
I think you're not wrong in the LEC as well, because, you know, Larsen's there, and you got a couple other ones as well, but it tends to be more than one Azir player up at that particular echelon of play. Away, it's a couple more of those target bans. The Draven away from Rusty Sniper, not entirely surprised. And the Sejuani Maokai, two of those big, beefy, engaged junglers off the table as well.
Already noticing Melio hasn't been banned away. I mentioned last game quite the power level of that champion. Whether
You
or
do
not
love to mention it.
Take it here. We'll have to keep our eyes on. So it's open for this draft. I would expect it more from Wendell than PlayStation. From what I know of PlayStation, a very much engage-oriented style of champ player. But not to say that he can't pull out something in the Enchanter pool either.
And I really like this Tristana B1 here for Uniq, because whilst this is a flex pick, oftentimes that's just said it, oh, Tristana is technically an AD carry, she can go bot lane, but more often you see her in the mid. But Rusty Sniper actually plays this pick, actually plays this champion, and uses it to dominate lanes where he's going to possess a range advantage, which is something that you can generate versus a Kai'Sa. Need to be worried about the engage from the Rel that can come through, though. That champion is so busted at the moment.
We have seen a fair amount of this trade around the world on this current patch. Kai'Sa for Tristana, big thing. They're both flexes. They can both do a hell of a lot of damage as the game goes on. Tristana, perhaps a bit more prevalent early. Kai'Sa a bit prevalent later, but similar kind of ability to handshake those champions. The responses, though, from Uniq, they get a Xayah, debating something really spicy in a Vladimir, but I don't know whether that's getting blind picked right now.
Yeah, blind picking top lane isn't what we would expect to see here. Expect just a jungler for Cast, but then again, we know how flexible he likes to be, and we've seen him pull out these carries, so maybe just having to sacrifice. It should just be a support match, honestly, here for PlayStation. Not going to be the case, though. The Lilia gets locked in, so Cast here pulling out some AP in the jungle before it can get banned away on second phase. A lot of damage already for Uniq.
Yes.
We need to see them round out with some frontline in the next stage.
Yeah, it would be quite nice. And Verdant, I think, locking in the Syndra here is really, really cool, because you are preserving a little bit of the flex potential in that Rel. Could obviously still go into the jungle or the support. And Niter on Syndra, it just feels great. This champion has a little bit less early game power, but he's one of the few champs that can match this Tristana in terms of raw damage output.
Like Niter, like Knight, Syndra players, both. They've certainly seem to have gone for it here. And Rudude, what are you kind of umming and ahhing about? Because it seems like you've got a particular angle you're kind of concerned about looking at that facial expression.
No, I've been a big proponent of Syndra for the last 3 or 4 patches. I think this champion is heavily slept on. Very happy to see it picked up here. The interaction between Syndra and Tristana relies very heavily around the scatter the weak, as with generally most Syndra matchups. But if you use that scatter and it misses, it does give Unicorn free reign to jump on the Syndra and try and get an advantageous trade.
As we're moving into the second phase, and we're starting to see a little bit more focus towards some of these key picks for Uniq. That Ornn taken off the board, removed away from Uko. And actually, the Amumu is a takeaway from Taxa. Whilst they did lose that game yesterday, Taxa was flashing forward constantly on the Amumu, always going for these big plays, even if he wasn't necessarily able to get the team the dub.
Yeah, and also it just makes Lilia's life a lot harder. Like, she goes into press Q, she gets Ard, you've also got a Tristana hopping around. Like, it just makes things more difficult, and getting rid of some of those bigger engage options, I can see the value in that. But we are still waiting, as we said, to see these comps rounded out. Obviously, the Lilia being enabled by an AD mid laner, of which there is quite a big dearth of, or at least the double AD champions. But Ruda was asking for some frontline. On the other side of Verdant, you've kind of got your pick. You've got your AD, but or your AP carries, I suppose, with the Kai'Sa being a bit flexible in that. But they're still looking for some frontline as well, and it kind of feels like both these sides getting rid of some of those bigger options for both those teams.
Wouldn't be surprised to see Nilla on a tried and true carry on that top side. Instead, they give it to Taxa and go for the Viego. Obviously, this composition at the minute, a little bit lacking in the physical damage department until that Viego gets locked in. We do get to see a blind pick now for top lane for Uko to see what his style of champ is going to prove to be with Dion taken off the board. And Nilla gets counterpick R5 in that top side again. When we talk about Verdant, you always have to remember that Nilla, a very powerful carry player, even if we've not seen it so much this split, we know it still exists.
And that's why I'm not really surprised that we see Uko defaulting towards the Gragas. He's an incredibly safe laner. You can farm from range with that barrel once you get a few more points in it, and with the sustain that you've got in lane, very, very difficult for you to actually get pressurized. So if Verdant do want to lock in a carry in the top lane, I'm still going to be fine with that, but it's not going to be as enabled as it otherwise would be. Just seeing a few hovers coming through
some
here
really
in the
exciting
bottom lane.
ones, and then
some of them are really exciting, some of them really, really aren't. I think Rakanto, I think, makes a lot of sense. Obviously, that pairing up with Desire, the innate synergy between those two champions, and gives you a little bit more engaged, which your team was kind of lacking.
Now, what does Wendell want to go for last? There's a few interesting options when you do leave the support for a bit.
Yeah.
Sorry, actually, you're absolutely right. Because Viego locked in, unless there's some real spice happening. I'm just seeing all these hovers and going, ooh, that would be fun. Watch him lock it in and throw all our draft predictions to hell. Ooh. But a Fiora would make a lot of sense for Nille.
Perfect. I mean, Gragas is going to have HP regardless. Fiora does true damage, right? We don't need to talk about Fiora beating tanks generally in a 1 versus 1, but Nille on Fiora in particular. I think that, like, in spring, there was always this contention for who's the better Fiora, Nilla or Banderas. Nilla, you know, we never got to see a Fiora 1v1. We can never decide that. But Nilla has always performed well on the Fiora regardless and got it banned away from him very, very frequently through spring. So seeing him pull it back out once again, a bit of an homage to the roots of spring season that we got to see from Verdant. I'm happy to see this. With double solo lanes that I just adore watching, it's going to be a good game.
I do have a little bit of an issue with the Verdant composition in that you are very reliant on getting the first kill in a team fight, right? You've got so much upfront burst that can come through from the Syndra, and you pair that with the fact that Taxa is here on the Viego. If that initial engage doesn't land and Uniq are actually able to disengage with something like a Rakan, like a Xayah, like a Gragas, you can end up in a really rough situation where you are too far forward, and then the double AD carry can become very, very punishing on your backs.
I think I agree with that. I will also note it's not just a double AD. You've got cast again on a carry, and a carry that we've not seen a huge amount of. In fact, this is a conversation I was having with some coaches and stuff as well, where they were saying, look, why are we not seeing many AP junglers? And then the point they said was, look, there just aren't that many viable AD mid laners to pair that up with, and you get Tristana, probably the most potent of those options. It allows for something like a Lilia. Now you've got double AD carry and a Lilia as your threats. They get to a couple items, you only kill one of them with the burst, and maybe things get quite scary for Verdant.
Yeah, it's where getting that first kill does obviously make a big difference. Now it's worth mentioning that all of these champions that we've seen from Uniq, relatively squishy. The expectation that Uko goes for full tank sort of offsets that a little bit. But if you do CC Xayah, Rakan, Lilia or Tristana, they all fall very, very quickly. Yes, you've got Featherstorm on one side, but the rest of them exceptionally squishy, and short of stopwatches and Zhonya's coming through, there is just lethal damage to be found across Verdant's side as well.
It's also intriguing to see this sort of development coming through from Uniq Khorne, right? Because we have pigeonholed him as the Azir player, as the Victor player. Yeah, he had that pop-off game in Irelia, but generally it's been these long-range mid laners who, once they get to 2-3 items, are so impossible to deal with in a team fight. Tristana requires a lot more of that aggression, requires a lot more agency to actually get the champion off the ground. We know that he can do it on the Irelia. I think it's a big question if he can do it on this pick.
I think I will also point to last game where we saw Tristana get ahead on a team that I think has generally been considered a better team, for all that Uniq are in a slight revamp here with a couple new players coming in, a different look to the team. Still, I think it's fair to say Uniq have been the weakest team across this split on the whole, and they're now being asked to pilot a Tristana, which is another first pick again. Rude, like, they're doing it against Verdant, like, that's a really big ask, isn't it?
It is, definitely. But I think that, as you'd mentioned, if they're not going to do it here, when are they going to do it? And also the point that they have to just win every game. I think going for, as let's say, a meta and open and as difficult an execution as this is, the best way to win a game, I think, with a B1 Tristana is as strong and open as you can get in the current patch. I'm not necessarily shunned away from this. I've not seen Uniq pilot it successfully so far, but then again, the things we've seen them do so far haven't been successful, so maybe we get a different...
The data's a bit skewed, that's fair. And, like, I will also note, before I allow us to go on something a little bit bigger, that because Nord lost, Uniq are in a little bit of an easier position because they're only 2 games behind that 4th place spot. Of course, other teams are vying for it as well, and they are still behind the pack in general. But because Nord didn't win, that 4th place spot is a little bit more reachable by a lot of teams, and that does mean that Uniq are feeling a little bit better about their chances, even if it is a rough road ahead of them. We'll leave that on the side for now.
Yeah.
We can come back to that as the game goes on. Milcott, I've had a look at these teams. You've kind of got an idea about how both of them want to play. Where are you expecting this game to go earlier on?
So I think earlier on, I think there is actually an angled top lane, right? And that's not necessarily Taxa putting a lot of attention towards Nilla on this Fiora, but the skill that this guy is able to possess in the 1v1 can be apparent. Whilst we expect the Gragas to survive in terms of the laning phase, stuff like the belly bop, the E, the body slam, very predictable with the Fiora. And if you are ever able to get on the back side of Gragas, you can chase him down pretty effectively in that lane. So I want to see what Nilla is doing with the lane state in top lane, and if he's able to use that to continually put Uko in bad positions.
And just to dive on top of that top lane matchup here, we've got 2 Grasp of the Undyings in the top side of the map. So it is very much play for this laning phase. Conqueror you'll see on Fioras occasionally, but that's a much more scaling rune that helps you out much later on. Not been taken this game by Nilla, so this time around he is very much focusing on keeping himself at parity or getting a lead in the laning phase that he can then use the better Fiora late game innately to win out in a side.
Of course, when you've got something like a Tristan in the mid lane as well as a potential answer into the Tristan or another split push threat, Nilla isn't necessarily going to have as unmatched a time as he might in another matchup or another game where there isn't that kind of ability to trade towers across map from the like of Uniq.
Yeah, you do need to be able to take those towers quickly, though, because Uniq, with the double AD carry composition that they've got for themselves, can take down those structures swiftly themselves, right? So if Verdant end up losing, let's say, a 3v3 on one side of the map whilst Nilla is split pushing, Uniq are going to be opened up with an opportunity to get a big shove down. So that's why I think it's really important to get Nilla in this strong position so that he can sort of act as a one-man team almost.
Still, as it stands, both junglers pathing from top side of their jungles towards the bot side, but Taxa looking for a very early look into mid lane. Unicorn, level 2, thus far nothing too much. Here comes Taxa. Does he have the W available? Scout of the weak lands into the Spectral Maw, and that's a very sad Tristana. Gets away, but comes at the cost of 2/3 of a health bar.
Yeah, now that should lead into a bot lane or a bot side advantage as well.
It's stop motion, guys.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask both of you now what happens in the next 10 seconds, because we can't see it.
I think that's a trick question, and we stay on this freeze frame for the next 10 seconds.
That's incredible.
I think nothing.
Really?
We're gonna go back to bot side, and there's gonna be nothing different.
Our faces on the
Incredible.
screen.
When you stare at the void stares back, and we are in the void right now. Hi guys, we're looking pretty great. Let's be real. Podcast again.
You two are still in the white t-shirts. Like I
I'll
thought
go
there would
get
be
changed
some...
if you want.
Hang on. Right, this is it. Hang on.
Can we please go make
1
it
second.
a bit more jazzy? Right, okay.
Here we go. We'll do this for next game. I'll find a share. Something. I've got
Something to deal with.
Monochrome is a classy look. We're back. Okay. The moment. Right, that was a great podcast episode that was very highly relevant to League of Legends. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. What the heck? Nilla has just come in. I think Unicorn's managed to get away, but has had to pop the flash. That is a very bizarre little roam, but an effective one nonetheless from Nilla.
And that's sort of the state of play. If the Fury is able to roam out of the Gragas lane at level 3 and get the enemy Tristana's flash in the mid lane, that's great. But that really helps out Verdant, because they weren't able to get that summoner spell on the first gank. Unicorn still has access to the teleport, but being this low on HP, he's probably going to have to burn that coming back into the lane, which means that if Taxa wants to go mid lane again, then the Tristana, you can take her down and you can punish her a lot for any aggression.
And you are looking for that first recall to come through between this mid-jungle duo. The base damages to take out Tristana just aren't there because of the rocket jump. So as long as Unicorn is never really using that aggressively, taking down the Tristana in lane, not particularly feasible without a couple of items in their back pocket.
Still, that is 2 ganks by Verdant onto mid lane from 2 different members, sub 3 minutes. They know exactly what the early game plan is, which is make Unicorn's life as difficult as possible. And considering how often Tristana games and drafts are about the Tristana being a significant threat and tower sieging option, So you can see what Verdant's plan is to try and make that as difficult as possible.
Double stun in the bot lane. Taxa might be thinking about this, and that's been a lot more active in the early game this time around.
Does have the flash, can try and get in. Rusty Sniper, flash for flash, but there's still a Spectral more! Trying to stay alive, will just like the bowling ball coming on through!
No!
But is it enough? Surely not, the Dream Dust is coming on through, sticks him into the long, long sleep of death, maybe. Gooby trying to run away, does not have flash, does not have cleanse.
There it is!
Q! Taxa is taxed! And nothing is true but death as well. My days, beautiful plays in the bot side.
Yeah, everybody playing that fight gorgeously there. Just again, the base damage is not quite high enough for either side until Uniq managed to pull cast in and get that kill in response. Taxa holding the W down for as long as possible, flashes in and then waits for the flash from Rusty Sniper, managed to land it. Still can't find the kill. The follow-up just not quite there from Wendell and Gooby. And a 2 for 0 on the bot side for Uniq, starting off this game quite well as well.
And who was it that was picking up those kills? Who was it making that journey into the bottom lane to get that advantage? It was Cast. Great defensive stuff from the bot lane duo of Rusty Sniper and PlayStation. This new man in the jungle coming in, getting himself accelerated on the Lilia.
And it's early, don't get me wrong. But Verdant lost yesterday. They know they're up against it because natives are on their heels again. And you just have to wonder how much that kind of pressure might get to them. It's not like Verdant haven't been known as forced a flash in the mid lane, and you just have to wonder with an early game like this whether Uniq can maybe start to get into the head of Verdant, who have been known, say last split in particular at things like MMA Masters, to maybe drop the ball when the pressure is on. That's so much damage. He's gone. Never mind. The moment I speak about it, Unicorn gets blurted in mid lane. Third gank, and he finally got a kill.
Yeah, so 4 people end up in that mid lane. That's all it took to kill the Tristana. Not too many resources committed. But I do want to sort of touch on this X factor, I feel like, for Uniq that we've seen in this last week of play, that they've pulled in Cast and PlayStation, and we just can't really quantify how strong this team might be in not just the mechanics that we've seen from Cast, but also the shot calling and the intangibles that we can't see from what 2 new players are going to offer to a roster. For all we know, them taking down Verdant and then taking down the likes of these top 4 teams may be just their power level, and it could just not be a mistake anymore.
But you only have to look to last split to someone like Veneer, who attempted to make a late playoff run but were tantalizingly cut short. That team were actually cut short by Verdant, sneaking into the 4th place spot and making their way all the way to the final. So Verdant very much aware of what Uniq are trying to achieve with this game and with this late run, and going to be determined to stop it. Things going well for them in the top lane at least. Nilla has built up a CS advantage, which is going to grow as this wave comes in.
And I do like the Bramble Vest start as well for Gragas, making sure that there are just permanent Grievous wounds on the Fiora, making sure that those heals, as we do expect the Grasp of the Undying procs to come through, the lifesteal to be built up from the Fiora, the ulti lifesteal as well that comes through. There's a lot to be cut down, and it's just a good first pick-up.
Yeah, and now look at what Nilla is doing with this lane in top lane, by the way. Uko has TP, so he's going to be able to come back here, but he's low on mana, and he really is suffering right now. This is what Nilla can do with these great laning states, just forcing Uko to respond to him rather than the other way around.
Gotta say, I was looking at that and I grimaced, because that wave is not in a great place for this Gragas, who's desperately going to need some support. His attempted gank in mid lane, well buffered by Unicorn on that rocket jump. Yeah. But look at Nilla, he's still there with that wave frozen, turn around, engage. Taxa forced to ult in trade, nicely buffered, don't get me wrong. But Cast and Rusty Snipe have roamed up to get this Herald. And they're going to take this while Nille has got that wave trapped and is not really going to be in a great position to respond as yet.
Oh, PlayStation interrupted.
He's
Might
just
be in trouble.
Dead
Ooh, executed. You're right, Middlecott. He's gone. But the Herald Eye is down. They're coming down.
They're not getting that eye, folks.
They're not. Rusty Sniper's in danger now as well. He's going to go down. That's just 2. And no eye.
Tragedy. Now, I was going to say I really liked this from Uniq, and then they absolutely fumbled on all of the things that were going so well for them, because they... I mean, the theory is you pull Rusty Sniper and PlayStation up here, as a 2 versus 1, the Fiora can't contest and the wave just gets crashed and you reset it. Uko on the spot side can farm versus Gooby because of this insane level lead that you get from being solo laned for so long. But then when they take the Herald, PlayStation gets caught out. That leads to Uniq trying to overcommit just a little bit too much, and the dominoes start to fall, unfortunately, in a very awkward position for them.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we are highlighting Naita at the moment on this Syndra, because he's been the real beneficiary of a lot of these early plays going well for Verdant. 2-0 and 1 on the Syndra has got that Luden's Tempest completed, and people often like to think of Syndra as an early game champion, but post rework, really not the case anymore. She becomes incredibly strong throughout the game, and whilst Uniq, they've got carry options in multiple lanes, one of them is always going to be removed from a team fight if Naita's got his say.
Yes, so we got to see there the Splinters stack for Naita. Currently sat at about 45, which means that he's got the Q upgrade, which now means that Syndra has 2 charges of Q, which have their own individual cooldown that starts cycling through once you use the first one.
The 2-for-1 special.
It is indeed a 2-for-1 special, the bog off for free. And you've got to remember as well, as we get later into the game, the synergy between Syndra and the Rabadon's Death Cap is very crazy. You can get 55% bonus ability power from having Syndra 120 Splinters and the Rabadon's Death Cap. So just every piece of AP that you have, do that again by a half.
Really? It's pretty huge. And then you add in the fact that you've got a lot of squishy members who will not enjoy the execute threshold on a fully queued up R from Naita, and all those spheres flying at his face sounds like a rough time as Nile. Thrown back under the tower, but too much more to be found. Can cast, land an all-important sleep. The turnaround for Nile is pretty good. Misses a Q. And so much damage back. Lilting Lullaby will not matter as a watch-out Eep brings Fiora to her knees.
I don't know, bro. If Nile's coming straight for the Chinese Super Sever, he makes that play happen, but the Fiora not quite clean enough.
This isn't Ionia. This is Europe.
But you can see the danger of going for this Fiora, even without the Divine Sundering completed, nearly gets the 1v2. So whilst that's a win for Uniq right now, Verdant, they might be getting another one in the future. They're definitely getting one to PlayStation if they're able to take him down. He's going to be able to get over the wall without burning the ult or the flash. So still maintaining those defensive and aggressive tools on the Rakan.
Importantly, was able to W before the final Dark Sphere landed, so Knight are not able to find the follow damage on the Q, which would have obviously been enough to take down the Rakan. That is obviously what ends up keeping him alive. But as we head into this mid-game, though, dead even gold lead, we're looking at how these teamfights are going to look to flourish. So far, it's 2 carries, one for either side. 2-0-1 cast, 2-0-1 on Naita. Both of these teams need to look to play around their relatively fed members. This Lilia with a Demonic Embrace already, going to look to be trying to play at range. That dot damage that comes from the Swirl Seed in conjunction with the Demonic Embrace, certainly something that can be played around and sets up very nicely for some objectives with the Drake spawning inside the next minute.
And I like how mobile on the map PlayStation is being. Once the Xayah hits level 6, gets access to the Featherstorm, you can basically just leave her in a lane knowing that she's never going to get engaged, and that gives you the opportunity to try and set up a few more plays. We have got a Drake spawning in 10 seconds of PlayStation. Found himself on a little bit of a flank.
So much damage, has to flash on out, and now there's potentially turnaround as Tax is in danger. Has taken pretty damn low. The burn from Lilia bringing him down about a third as well. Now Taxa and Naita without much in the way of health bars. No teleport Naita. They can move over towards this dragon. It would be their second of the game.
Well, I said it would be initial poke from Cast, but how about a step up from the other new member of this Uniq roster? PlayStation finds his way behind Naita, forces the flash, forces this objective to go to Uniq without really any contest. And now 2-0 up. Drake Soul going to be that Hex Tech, so a very powerful Drake to be playing for later on, and having 2 Drakes already on the inroads to a Soul, it's a nice advantage.
And we've seen Verdant drop the ball as the game gets later. That's how they lost against Veneer yesterday. And whilst an even game state is nothing that's going to scare you at this point for Verdant, the fact that you coming through as the 9-2 team haven't really been able to accelerate against Uniq is potentially worrying. Of course, if you're able to find that fight at 20 minutes that just wins you the game, that's going to be great. But Uniq have shown themselves to have good plans coming out of this early game, and we know that if they get to teamfights on their spikes, they can execute in those scenarios as well.
No, you know, not to be funny, but yes, Verdant have got a decent team fight, but it is a little bit kill first target. It's not like Uniq have arguably got a slightly better 5v5 because they've drafted for the Fiora, who is notoriously a little bit more about the side lane. Speaking of, they're going to try and make that happen to Urko, who is just deleted. Phenomenal riposte. Will lock the Gragas down to get that kill as Taxa takes a excited turret shot, but will not fall down. Bot side, attempted look in at the bot lane, won't land too much as overcomes Gooby and Wendell. I'm going to get a bit of recall. I don't know what the Lilias.
Yeah.
What's going on there? Hang on, that's a recall on Vision.
Oh, hold on.
Cast is trying to make this one happen. He's sent to sleep. The looting lullaby. Look how Camus Rusty's Viper misses the feathers, but Birds with Feathers might go down under the tower together. Gooby and Wendell so desperately low, but here comes everyone else. Oh no, looking forwards, looking for a charge, skewer them on that mighty horny. Oh,
Gooby!
No, my days! Flash for the Acathian Rain, we'll make it at least a 1-for-1. 2-for-1 overall, and with the trade in top lane and a tower, I think Verdant come out on top, but at least Uniq throw a few punches themselves.
Yeah, so gold going back over to Uniq there, and it's mainly Uniq Korn who is the recipient cast
we're not
as
done.
well.
Oh, it's
Teleport down here.
Oh boy, needs to avoid the scout of the week. He's still trying to play this one up. Where's he
hold
going?
on.
He's jumping on Nita. Gets a reset, gets away. No way, Nita's got flash. We'll get it for the Spectral Maw and finally shut that down, but that was nearly incredibly slick from Unicorn.
And we were wondering whether he was going to be able to perform on the Tristana. Yes, he ends up being going down, but we've been seeing some incredibly clean mechanics coming out from the man in the mid lane from Uniq. Verdant, though, starting to assert themselves a little bit more in this game. Now, 2,000 gold to the good with that tower going down. Uniq not taking it lying down, though, opting to go for this play on the top side for the Herald, recognizing the advantage that Verdant have on the south side of the Rift.
Yeah, nothing to be contested here for Verdant, and you've got Kai'Sa with Static Shiv in the mid lane to just hold that turret and clear the wave pretty much with impunity. Now we get to see what Uniq look to do with this Herald. Try and break open some turrets, because at the minute that's the one area of the map that they're lacking in. It's a 2-0 for Verdant in terms of those outer turrets, and you can see that the gold lead actually fairly favourable for Verdant at this time being. With these really long lanes, it's exactly what a Fiora in particular is looking for, to chase down these tanks, get those vital procs going time and time again.
It's a good look for Cast in this game, but those solo laners definitely favouring Verdant right now. A lot of gold in Nita and Nile's pockets in particular is a great sign if you are a Verdant fan. Their solo laners so critical to their success in their hands. Very much a dominant force this split in this league. They are in position to convert that again. Though, of course, with the Herald, maybe that gold lead will shrink a little. Potentially a tower or two falls in favour of Uniq, which might level that gold lead a little.
It's the triple threat, right? It's what we've praised natives consistently throughout this split for, right? Having a top mid AD carry that can all get it done. Verdant, throughout the start of the split, were a lot more concerned with having Nile on these tanks on their engaged and going for 2 carry compositions. But now it really feels like they're giving him a lot more freedom. We're starting to see more stuff like the Jax, like this Fiora. We get to see why this guy is heralded as one of the best top laners in the league.
And I do want to, zoom out a little bit into what these compositions are going to look like in a fledged 5v5. Now, Verdant with this double marks, or rather, Uniq with the double marksman composition, theoretically scale very well into the late game if they can get into these 5v5s. But the poke from Gooby can never be underestimated in terms of just taking out one target. Once again, Uniq don't have that front line to absorb poke. If we see Ukko in a teamfight situation, it means Nilla is prioritizing a side lane or has free push in a side lane quite frequently. So this Kai'Sa going to have a lot of onus on her to be pumping out that poke early on and making sure that the team fights that Uniq do end up taking are going to be at a disadvantage, and then really putting emphasis on PlayStation's ability to find fights as soon as the objectives start spawning.
Speaking of 10 seconds until what would be soul point for Uniq, they've got a Herald to buy pressure in mid lane, but Nile has got the Gragas shoved up very, very deep. If Ukko wants to join, that turret could be under serious threat from this Fiora. Especially if things like a threat could happen is in mid lane. Gooby taken low, but Gooby down to the lilting lullaby and gets ignited and taken down. That's the AD carry already dead. Wendell taken so very, very low as well. Mid lane turret down to about 20% HP, but is still standing. Man advantage to Uniq though, and that means this Drake should be theirs for the taking. Xayah needs to recall though, and that could prove a slight complication, especially with Hex Gates allowing an easy return to the fight for Gooby in about 10 seconds.
Yeah, I think those Hex Gates are key. You've got the reset also coming through from Nilla. Uniq still going to stay on the Dragon. Unicorn fairly healthy for himself. This is one of the virtues of that double AD carry. They're going to put a teleport in from Ukko as well to make sure they secure this. And Verdant, they don't have the vision to move into the river. Instead, they're going to look for this mid lane tower, but they're not able to get that either.
So Drake secured. Soul point now for Uniq, and this now puts that little bit of a timer on Verdant, their composition. How soon can they look to find 5 versus 5s? 2,000 gold lead in their back pocket, but that's not translated to any of these neutral objectives just yet, as Nila now spots out Uniq Korn. Cast is hovering on this bot side, and Nilla knows that he's
Right,
isolated
guys.
here, but he might just fancy it anyway.
Does he know? He doesn't know. Unicorn is in so much danger, so much damage back, but it's a buster shot away. Hops now, but Nille is so
Hold
fast.
on.
Overcomes Cass to try and save it. Will not happen. He's now on that healing field courtesy of the Grand Challenge. But Nille surely running out of options until a teleport comes through to tag in some support.
Yeah, and I love this. Verdant able to get the mid lane tower as well. It just feels like they've come alive in this game. They're getting so much more bang for their buck. Kill there for Nilla in the bottom lane, and the teleport from Naito just to ensure that he's able to stay alive in that situation. And this is what we were worried about in this game when Uniq got that 2v1 that was oh so close. Eventually, the Fiora just becomes irremovable in the side lane. She's doing that on one item, on the Divine Sundera. Hasn't even got that Ravenous Hydra yet. Uniq really don't have anyone that can match him.
I think that's the case for the Syndra as well, honestly. 2-0-3 for Naito. It's a difficult task to try and find somebody to go into that side lane versus the Syndra. If it's not going to be the Gragas, then who is it? We're still waiting on 120, 100 splinters, so no ulti execute yet. No increased ability power yet. But the more Naito trades, the more levels Naito gets as well. The easier it is for him to start one-shotting people. And with the first strike as well, that is a real possibility.
Attempt little play there from Verdant, who are beginning to wrest control of the blue side jungle away from Uniq. Now that the Baron's alive, maybe this is an opportunity to drag Uniq into a difficult position. Unicorn trying to play it off against Nille as an engage happens. Onto that so squishy Lilia. She's dead, she's stolen, your jungler is down, Baron is spawned, and Verdant will head over to that purple worm. I can guarantee it.
Yeah, Cast had the crown of the Shadow Queen, but his health bar has been shattered by Verdant. Not enough to keep him alive. And even though Uniq are going to be able to spot this one out, you see Unicorn on the bottom side there. It looks like he's a bit more concerned with the push, but actually going to teleport in. You've got a load of big team fight ultimates, but that Baron is oh so low.
It's gone. Surely it's gone. But can Uniq find anything on the extraction? There is a flank from PlayStation, but they'll know he's here. Flash over the wall from Taxa. There's a quickness afterwards. They're trying to get in on that. That's a fairly decent engage, but PlayStation so desperately low as Rusty Sniper trying to deal with Gooby on the other side. In goes Nilly into the backside with that Grand Challenge. Oko dead to right, and it is a wipe. A disaster. Low health bar for Verdant, yes, but it's evergreen for Verdant, who come up with absolutely everything they could ask for. Unicorn escapes, but at what cost? The rest of his team's a myth. He's the most real thing left, and that's a bit of a statement, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you thought that Nilla was an absolute demon on the side. It turns out he can get it done in the team fights as well. I love that from Uniq, though, recognizing that they need to go for a play. They can't just let Verdant get that Baron for free. But it was also great awareness from Verdant to immediately jump on PlayStation as soon as he went for that engage. And really, after that fact, it was Uniq grasping at straws to try and get something back, but they weren't able to. Verdant have put themselves into a massive position of power. They've accelerated the game like we criticized them for not doing yesterday, and Uniq, well, this resurgence is looking a little bit short-lived.
Verdant still need to dot the I's, cross those T's, but with a Baron in their back pocket, a soul denial opportunity in 1 minute's time. Expectations are that this game should go the way of our reigning EMEA Masters representatives of the league, and you can see them just controlling this bot side jungle. They know what the next objective is. This is that hallmark of a team with really good ideas of what they want to do for the next couple of minutes on the map. They know they need to deny this soul, so what do? They play through bot lane, play through mid lane, and make sure that the vision in the bot side jungle is absolutely choked out.
Look at the scoreboard. No turrets for Uniq across this game. It's been really tough for them to finish up what they've started to get this Tristan to people. That's a decent lilting lullaby, but there's going to be so many people there! Massive damage, but it's not enough. It's a 2v1.
PlayStation.
The backline goes PlayStation, but there's just no follow-up. Knight is so low. My days, that burn is ridiculous. They finally get it. That's one back. Oko needs to get some more. The Bomber is more of a party popper at this point. It looks flashy, but doesn't really amount to much. They get one, but at what cost? Unicorn does get a tower in topside, and Uniq bite back 15 seconds on Soul. That could actually be pretty big because they will have the man advantage. I just don't know how easy it will be to contest.
It's looking like it's going to be a 4v4. Remember, Unicorn TP'd in to get the Baron.
True.
I actually really like this decision from Uniq. You don't need to take this Drake. Yes, Soul would be nice, but what's the other consequences? You're getting so much gold on your top side. There's 2 turrets fallen there. Likelihood is they can break open mid lane as well. Unless Verdant are going to commit to a fight in this mid lane, this is 3 turrets for 1 dragon, which even when you have a Baron, is just an awful trade on Verdant's side.
Yeah, and you consider how anemic the map state was for Uniq before. Not only is this going to be gold in their pockets, but it means that they're able to contest vision much easier. The fact that Verdant don't have this tier 1 in the top lane, don't have this tier 1 in the mid lane, means that Uniq can actually walk into the red topside jungle without necessarily feeling too pressured. They're still down in terms of gold, but they are in a much better position than they were a minute and a half ago.
There's the upgrade on the W. That Kai'Sa beginning to get scarier and scarier, yes, but Verdant again in a slightly later game scenario, getting caught out and sucker punched. It caught them yesterday. Will it catch them to a disastrous degree today? 2 towers for Unicorn. Rusty Sniper gets one in the mid lane as well. That gets some much needed gold into these AD carries, inventories. Yes, Verdant in the lead. The still sole point. It's not like Uniq are out of fangs, out of options. They punch back, and necessarily so is Go in danger. Is about to be deleted. Surely nowhere to go. Body stolen. Dead top laner.
Yeah, and whilst the team fights may look good for Uniq, especially when they're able to get these catches, we've got to remember that if Verdant are able to bring more people to the party on the side lane, they will just win, and they do still have that side lane strength. Unicorn, he's doing a lot better for himself now that he's got 2 items on the Tristana, taking down even more, but he's still going to get one shot by Nita if they end up 1v1ing, and Nita is still playing Fiora, so I think for Verdant, you want to slow it down, right? You want to play these side lanes to try and split Uniq across the map, get some inhibs where they're not contesting you.
Observers, can we have a quick stack check? In fact, I just saw that 104 stacks. Not quite the 120, but that's still a lot of damage from Nita, who's just away from getting towards that death cap completion as well. Once she gets the 120 stacks, that additional 15%, you called it out earlier, Rude Dude, and that Syndra has truly scaled at that point. There's the death cap completion. A few more stacks and Syndra will be really, really scary.
We already have execute threshold on ult. It's just not something that Syndra needed, but it's something she more than loves having. So if, for example, anybody gets ulted at this game, and it is anybody, because Ukko has negative MR at this stage in the game, right? He's not built any of it to try and deal with the side lane. They just die.
Yeah, and you consider if you get into mid-range, you're going to get threatened by the Syndra, but if you're standing in an adjacent county, you're going to get hit by a Kai'Sa W. 3 items here for Gooby with this AP build, and once you miss it, the cooldown goes down a little bit, but Uniq, it's so difficult for them to engage now, because so much of that is coming from Ukko, who doesn't have any magic resist, and PlayStation, who is playing a support. Verdant, you can just stand in mid lane and allow your side lanes to push you to victory.
I wasn't expecting an example of Yorkshire v Lancashire rivalries with being hit over the county lines right now, but here we are as PlayStation taken so desperately low, but does get away with it. Oh my days, the artillery keeps firing, and
I mean,
which side of the War of the Roses he's on, but he's doing a lot of work.
I mean, it's very Yorkshire versus Lancashire, right? Because one team is convinced this is a rivalry, and the other team is absolutely convinced it isn't. Verdant looking like they're in God's country right now. Grass is always greener on their side of the rift, and it is looking very, very dark for Uniq around the Baron pits.
Yeah, Nil is pushing in the bot side as well, so even if Uniq can contest as 5, they're going to lose their bot inhibitor to do so. Nilla's got TP, but the question is how long do they have before this goes down, and can they take a fight afterwards?
Absolute dark the entire way. No way to stop the Baron. It's taken cleanly by 5. There's a teleport back to stop Nille, who is... Oh no! Unicorn's been caught! He hops over the wall. Will just about to survive for now. Needs to run away. Desperately has to run away from the top.
Can't get back.
PlayStation by accident. It's collateral damage. These mortar shells are hitting like warheads. They'll get one. Taxa secures it. How much further can he go? Will not dive too much further. Wendell with the critical pick. Nille is somehow here. Desperately under the tower. Will get shut down. Massive stop onto Taxa, but will get out with the ultimate. Will not quite die. Now Nita into the base is in a difficult position. Flash. Body slam. Cask. Not quite enough. There is still the ultimate available from Ukko. No, sorry. It's gone down. Nita. No. He's taken. Rusty snapping out onto Wendell. Bruited in place. The feathers are flying. And they'll take him straight out of the sky. It's a bird of prey. And they'll take out Gooby as well. The Baron shove is over before it can begin.
What the bloody hell is going on, Verdant? We thought that they'd overcome their stumble. We thought that they put this game beyond all doubt, but they overstep pushing into the base. Yes, they get the inhib. Yes, they're in an advantageous position, but look at the bottom of your screen. We've got 10 seconds until the Hextech Soul, and Verdant are nowhere near it.
There's just nothing to be done for Verdant. They overplayed their hand, went too deep to try and commit to the end game, and now Uniq come away with their own end game buff. The Baron for Verdant secured them an inhibitor, but it also secured Uniq the Hextech Soul.
They are haunted by yesterday, and those voices are getting louder and louder. We all know what they're saying. It's saying, you can't do it. You can't finish what you started. And Verdant slipping when it matters most at the end of the split, at the end of these games. 9-2. Will they slide to 9-3?
What tenacity from Uniq, right? A 7-game loss streak, an entire round robin's worth of L's. And in the last 2 weeks, they come up and put up performances like they have done. Yes, they are still down. Yes, they don't have a bot lane in him. Yes, Verdant still pushing with the last few remnants of this Baron, but we're about to tick over to 30 minutes, and they are still alive in a game versus a team right at the top of the league.
Hex Soul, 4 items on a Xayah, 3 items on a Tristana, 3 items on a Lilia. You have the tools, you have the damage. Verdant need to be so careful. You know those little voices in the back of their head are just beginning to make them doubt, make them sweat. Rusty Sniper still needs to be careful because he's against a significantly longer range sniper in Gooby this game. Verdant needs to close this.
Has been finished for Nilla, so him in the side lane becomes even more indomitable, grouping up in the team fight, of course, a little bit weaker now with that itemization, but if Uniq do find a comeback, and albeit for only 1 game, it will give us 4 of the bottom teams 1 win away from a playoffs position. And yes, that may well change within, 1 or 2 games, but the fact that it is still as close as we could conceivably find it going into potentially the last week, or going into what is definitely the last week of the split. But all of these teams have just shown so much at so many different points in this season that it's impossible to know who to go for.
Right, and look, currently playoff cutoff is 5 wins. That's where Nord are right now, and they've got 2 games to play, so that's not a guarantee it stays at that. Nord can still win, but Uniq are still in with a glimmer of a chance of playoffs. But they had to go through some ridiculous opponents to do it. They've got to go through Verdant, the top of the league, the team that was seemingly untouchable. They lost yesterday. They're slipping in the end of this game. Natives are rubbing their hands and crossing their fingers at the same time, praying for this to be Unique's win. The other teams at 4 wins, they are praying Uniq lose. They don't need more competition.
Yeah. It's not going to get any easier for Uniq, though, as maybe get a pick onto Gooby.
This is in darkness.
They know he's going to have Castus trying to go forward. Can't quite make it work. Castus was really brave. Don't solo onto Wendell. They get 1. Gooby so low.
No.
He's being slowed.
Oh,
he's got to go. It's a double. They've got 2.
Not like this.
Oh, just like this.
45-second death timers on Gooby. Now, mid lane inhibitor looks like it's possible, but if we look at the bot lane, Nilla, that side lane pressure that we've been so frequent to highlight.
Not again, the Grey Screen, not like this. We can't live in expectation. We can't live having to wonder. Pray to the gods of tech out there. This gets resolved shortly into issues depriving of us of what could be an extraordinary end of the game.
No, go back. The game was happening. The game was happening. Go back to the game.
No!
Go back to the game.
We just got to be continued next week.
Oh, my word. I feel like Roundabout's going to start playing. We've just got to be continued right there at the bottom.
Next episode will come shortly. Guys, we've got a little bit of a moment.
Yeah.
Middle Cop, how do Uniq close it out? Rudu, you're telling me how Verdant are closing out. Nice hoodie, by the way. I've not sorted myself, but I appreciate it. Go first, Middle Cop.
Right, so I imagine our answers are going to be mirror images of each other, right? Uniq need to stop Nille. You can't allow this Fiora to open up on the split push. You've got the ability to shove, fine, just for yourselves, right? But if you allow free time in the side lane for this guy, it doesn't matter all the good plays that you've done for the last 10 minutes of this game, you can still go down.
And how do Verdant close it out? Because they are slipping. They've just lost 2 45-second death timers. How on earth do you hold?
So their plan here is to have just drawn as many people back as possible. I think, fortunately, that they've pulled enough people back so that it's actually only the Xayah pushing up through mid lane at the minute. That's not a conducive enough amount of people to end the game. Maybe a mid inhibitor gets traded back. Maybe it's just the turret itself. For now, I think that's just a couple of picks and a sort of shock factor more so than anything for Verdant in case the first 4 deaths inside the base weren't enough. But I think Verdant need to try and play these side lanes a little bit. We've got Nilla. I mean, Nilla's already playing the side lane, right? But I would like to see Nita try it as well. Nobody beats him in a 1v1 either. If he gets an ulti onto a squishy target, they die.
Yeah, and
Look up.
we need to be certain Verdant should not be in this game state,
No.
right? Okay, I was willing to write off yesterday as a little bit of a fluke and maybe Veneer overperforming. This is a team that has serious issues coming towards playoffs. The games shouldn't be this close. We shouldn't be relying on Nilla to go for these hero split pushes to end the game for them.
We shouldn't be in a game state like this. Nille forced away, inhibitor turret in mid, about to be sieged onto. It's what Uniq are looking for. They must claim this inhibitor. They must find a way to solve this one out as Verdant in a difficult position. 10 seconds on Wendell, 22 on Gooby. Another freeze fame for the moment as we wonder, just wonder where things go from here.
It's a minute until the Baron, and importantly, we've got a bot lane inhibitor down for Verdant, so that's a very advantageous state of the map, is that they're going to have pushing prio in that bot side regardless of whether Nil is there or not. If he is there, it means that the game may well end, as opposed to it just being Nexus turrets going down, and Uniq are going to have to keep somebody down on that bot side, regardless of what the timer on the Baron is.
We need
Yeah,
to
we're
start
heading
tracks.
over now.
Need to try stuff like
Middlecop.
these stopwatches as well. Okay,
Yes.
Rusty Sniper picking that one up is massive. Nille has one of his own, and we've seen this Fiora dive into team fights before. So, need to be cognizant of those items, because at this point in the game, a stopwatch can be the difference between winning or losing.
Guardian Angel for Taxa, stopwatch for Nille, you're absolutely right. But it is 4 types of vulnerability for the side of Uniq. They've got a stopwatch top, bot, support, and that Zhonya's on the Lilia. You have to feel that maybe Tristana goes back and buys her own, and suddenly that last team fight, you need to win the game. You have got that one last gasp tool to win you the one fight that gets you this. I don't know how long Elder is. I didn't get to see. But that's another option. You've got
It's about a minute
Hexol
after.
already. You've got Hexol. You've got enough items on these AD carries. Like, it's not just that you've got the split push win condition from Verdant. You've got to deal with 3 extremely scary carries. 3 extremely scary carries right now for Uniq.
And now you've got to look on the flip side, and I think that there are 2 very important targets, one for either side. I'm looking at Gooby for Verdant to land that Kai'Sa poke, not be getting caught out by these swirl seeds as well, is an important like flip side of that coin. But also PlayStation on the flip side. See if he can find some engages and look at the Rakan to start up these fights, because if the fights get started, then of course the Kai'Sa's a little bit weaker. She's going to be having to fire Ws from a lot closer range and be under a lot more fire. And then importantly as well, if you're looking at how well those two are going to how well those 2 individuals interact with one another, it opens up the discussion for how well the marksmen are going to be able to function in the team fights also.
I think, while again we are paused here, teased with the end of the game, teased with this game state, maybe this is a moment, a breather we wouldn't normally have to really build up cast. This guy has come in to a team that was dead last and looking like deservedly dead last in a lot of ways. He comes in with PlayStation, and yes, PlayStation, wonderful flanks this game, but cast again on the Lilia, yesterday on the Belveth, looking absolutely monstrous. How much of a threat has he been? The counter ganks, the plays, the catches to bring them back from incredibly difficult game states.
It's just incredible. And the fact that this was a Lilia that was slammed down so nonchalantly, almost, I think really speaks to not only this guy's skill, but also his confidence, right? His interview yesterday was one of the funniest that I've ever heard, because this was a guy that just exuded the exact sort of personality that you want to come into a team that is in this position. Super confident, always big enough his teammates, was talking about how much he loved Rusty Sniper, who, let's be aware, is also having a pretty good game for himself as well, after a few weeks where maybe you couldn't have said that same thing. So I think for Uniq, my only real issue with them right now is that this has happened week 6 and maybe not in week 3 or 4, because I think that you've got the makings of a really solid roster, a really solid team here.
Is it too little? Is it too late? It feels like there is... The
Comes
problem
down
is,
to this game, doesn't it?
there is a gasp. Even if they lose this game, there's still a gasp. It's just so hard, so narrow a possibility of them getting in. But what a way to start a potential miracle run than taking down Verdant. And you just imagine, like, this suddenly makes that Natives game so much more exciting, because Natives win, and they're first place, despite the kind of the travesty that was that rematch that we had of Natives v Verdant, where it wasn't the game we were hoping for, and maybe despite that scenario, they could still end up in first.
I'm not going to initialize. I think that Natives are going to be a little bit happy with this game, but a little bit nervous as well, because they're playing Uniq next week, and it's all well and good, Uniq taking down Verdant and getting you in that position at the top of the table, but if you lose to them next week, you're in the exact same position.
We are delving down some very unlikely scenarios. Doctor Strange would be proud of us, I'm sure.
I'm hoping they happen. That'd be very, very
it would
funny.
be so much more exciting, so much more dramatic, and
The
we
goal
love those.
The goal obviously is for a 3-day week 7. For those that don't know the NLC schedule, we have Tuesday, Wednesdays as standard, but then on the final week, Friday is your tiebreaker day. Now, last split, me and Duckling had a 1 tiebreaker day. It was nice and chill. We cast 1 game and had a good old time of things. There's a very real possibility this split that we have 5-way tiebreaker for 4th place? Question mark.
Yeah, so as I understand tiebreaker rules, and correct me if I'm wrong, it works like this. If you are tied in games, head-to-head is what decides it. If you are tied in head-to-head, wins in the second half of the split decide it. If you are still tied, then you get a tiebreaker game. So there's still a few break points before an actual game is played, but the possibility is oh so tantalizing. Back into the game, back into a game state that is just insane, so unusual, and in some ways so unexpected.
So there was an extra layer to the rulebook added for this split.
Oh, what's that?
Tiebreakers are determined by head-to-head, but if head-to-head is even, then it is second half of the split wins.
Yeah, wins, yes. That's exactly it, yeah.
So yeah, there's that, and then of course if those are tied, then they play a tiebreaker game. But I think there's obviously, that's only in a 2-way tie situation. Again, we're discussing this as though it's just going to be 2 teams sat on different scorelines. There's a very real possibility that there's a load.
Well, there are so many teams stacked in the middle with just a win or 2 between them, and only a death or 2 between the end of the game here. Who gets caught? Another bowling ball lands, and at this point of the game, they begin to really burn. Lilia is a very scary champion.
Yeah. But Uniq need to be quick here, and I like that they're rushing down the Baron.
Hexa tried to get in.
Now
It was a lot, but he can't steal this one.
TP bot.
PlayStation, so Gary, they get
look at Nilla.
They've gone on top of Gumi. He tries to fly away. He's got no.
Look at the base, look at the base.
They've killed him. Look at the base. Nita, Nille trying to stop it down.
2 turrets.
No.
They're onto the Nexus. Not like this. Surely not. It can't be a Baron for Nexus. Trade 50 gold remains. A stopwatch. In comes Cash, and they've done it. No, Uniq.
Oh, in dramatic.